Think for a moment about the sensations you hardly notice anymore. The slight heaviness in your legs after sitting too long. The way your feet sometimes feel cold even when the room is warm. The occasional cramp that wakes you in the night. Or the tingling in your toes that comes and goes without explanation. These experiences are so common after 50 that most people accept them as normal, as simply what it feels like to grow older. But there is another possibility worth considering. What if these sensations are not the inevitable price of passing years, but something else entirely? What if they are messages, quiet signals from a vast internal network that is trying to tell you something important about its condition? And what if most people have never been taught how to listen? You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. The circulation within. Understanding how blood vessels age and what supports their longevity. There is a question worth considering, not because it demands an immediate answer, but because it invites a different kind of attention to the body. The question is this: what does it feel like when blood moves well? Most people have never paused to consider the sensation of healthy circulation. It is not something that announces itself. There is no drum roll when blood flows freely through open, flexible vessels. The experience of good circulation is, in fact, the absence of sensation, no heaviness, no coldness, no throbbing, no mysterious tingling. The legs simply carry the body where it needs to go. The feet remain warm without effort. The hands do not fall asleep at night. The body moves through its days without drawing attention to the vast network of vessels that make movement possible. It is only when this quiet system encounters difficulty that the body begins to speak. And the language it uses is subtle at first. A certain tightness in the calves after walking. Feet that feel cold even in a warm room. Swelling around the ankles that does not fully resolve with rest. A pulling sensation behind the knees. These are not emergencies. They are communications, gentle signals that the highways inside are no longer as wide or as flexible as they once were. For people in the decades after 50, these signals become more common. They are easy to dismiss as normal aging. And in one sense they are. Blood vessels do change over time, but understanding what those changes are, why they occur, and what factors influence their pace, offers something valuable: the ability to make choices that support the body's natural capacity for healthy function. Year after year. The architecture of flow. To understand how circulation changes with age. It helps to picture the circulatory system not as a set of pipes, but as a living landscape. The arteries that carry blood from the heart to the rest of the body are composed of multiple layers, each with a specific role. The innermost layer, the one that comes into direct contact with blood, is called the endothelium. It is a single layer of cells so thin that it would take dozens of them stacked together to equal the thickness of a single sheet of paper. Yet this fragile-looking layer performs functions essential to health. The endothelium is not merely a passive lining. It is an active organ that produces substances regulating the width of arteries, the stickiness of blood cells, and the inflammation levels within the vessel wall. When functioning well, the endothelium helps arteries expand and contract with each heartbeat, keeps platelets from clumping unnecessarily, and maintains a surface so smooth that blood components glide past without catching or sticking. Surrounding this inner layer are smooth muscle cells that give arteries their ability to tighten and relax. Beyond that, a flexible outer layer provides structure and support. Together, these layers form vessels that are remarkably dynamic, widening when more blood flow is needed, contracting when less is required, and healing themselves when minor injuries occur. This system works seamlessly for decades in most people, but it is not indestructible. Over time, factors both internal and external begin to leave their mark on the arterial walls. The changes are gradual, almost imperceptible at first, but they accumulate in ways that matter. One of the earliest changes involves the endothelium itself. With sustained exposure to certain conditions, elevated blood sugar, inflammatory molecules, physical stress from elevated pressure, the endothelial cells begin to function less optimally. They produce less of the signaling molecules that keep arteries relaxed. They become more permeable, allowing substances to penetrate into the vessel wall that would normally pass by harmlessly. They express more sticky molecules on their surface, attracting immune cells that should be elsewhere. Once immune cells enter the artery wall, a cascade of events follows. These cells, designed to fight infection, encounter particles of cholesterol that have also made their way into the vessel lining. Mistaking these particles for threats, the immune cells engulf them and become bloated and dysfunctional. They accumulate within the wall, forming the earliest visible evidence that the artery is under stress. Over years, this process continues. More cholesterol particles enter. More immune cells respond. The accumulating material forms patches of thickening within the artery wall. Some of these patches remain soft and stable. Others become hardened with calcium deposits. In either case, they occupy space that once belonged to the open channel through which blood flows. As the channel narrows, blood must work harder to pass through. The heart pumps with greater force to maintain flow. The pressure within the vessel rises, and the narrowed area becomes a place where blood components are more likely to cluster, simply because they are crowded together in a smaller space. This is the condition that underlies so many of the sensations people notice as they age. The legs feel heavy because muscles are not receiving the oxygen they need during activity. The feet are cold because blood arriving at the extremities has traveled through vessels that have lost some of their ability to widen and deliver warmth. Cramps occur when muscles briefly outrun their oxygen supply. Swelling happens when the return circulation, the veins carrying blood back toward the heart, cannot keep pace with the blood being pumped downward. None of these sensations are inevitable. They are not required components of aging. They are signs that the balance has tipped, that the forces wearing on the vessel walls have outpaced the body's capacity to maintain and repair them. And that balance, it turns out, is influenced by factors largely within an individual's control. The question of fats. Few topics in nutrition have generated as much confusion as dietary fat. For decades, the message was simple and absolute. Fat clogs arteries, and eating it leads to heart disease. This message, repeated endlessly, shaped the eating habits of generations. It also turned out to be an oversimplification that obscured important distinctions between different types of fats and their effects on the body. The relationship between dietary fat and arterial health is more nuanced than the old messages suggested. Fats are not a single category. They are a family of molecules with different structures and different effects once inside the body. Some fats, consumed in excess, do contribute to processes that stress blood vessels. Others appear to support vascular health when used regularly as part of overall eating patterns. The confusion is understandable. For someone who spent decades hearing that all fats are harmful, the idea that certain oils might actually support circulation can feel like a reversal. But the research supporting this view is not new. It has accumulated gradually, study by study, across populations and laboratory investigations. What emerges from this body of work is not a simple prescription, but a set of observations about which fats are associated with better vascular outcomes and which are not. One consistent finding involves the traditional eating patterns of populations around the Mediterranean Sea. For generations, people in regions like Crete, southern Italy, and parts of Greece consumed diets rich in olive oil, vegetables, legumes, and fish. When researchers began studying these populations in the mid-20th century, they noticed something striking. Rates of heart disease were considerably lower than in Northern Europe and the United States, despite fat intake that was not particularly low. The difference was not in the amount of fat, but in the type. The fats these populations consumed came primarily from olives, nuts, seeds, and fish rather than from industrially processed oils, red meat, or dairy fat. Olive oil in particular was used abundantly, not just for cooking, but as a finishing fat drizzled over vegetables, bread, and beans. Decades of research have since identified components in olive oil that may explain these observations. The oil contains not only monounsaturated fats, which themselves are associated with healthier cholesterol profiles, but also a range of plant compounds called polyphenol. These compounds, which give high-quality olive oil its peppery taste and its golden green color, have been shown in laboratory studies to influence several processes relevant to arterial health. Polyphenol from olive oil can reduce oxidative stress, the cellular damage caused by unstable molecules that form naturally during metabolism. When oxidative stress is high, the endothelium becomes more vulnerable to injury. By neutralizing some of these damaging molecules, the polyphenol in olive oil may help preserve the integrity of the arterial lining. These same compounds also appear to influence platelet behavior. Platelets are the small blood cells responsible for forming clots when bleeding occurs. They need to be responsive enough to seal wounds, but not so reactive that they clump together inside blood vessels where no wound exists. Certain polyphenol can reduce excessive platelet reactivity, shifting the balance towards smoother flow without interfering with necessary clotting. And there is evidence that regular consumption of olive oil supports the endothelium's production of nitric oxide, the molecule that signals arteries to relax. Relaxed arteries are wider arteries. Wider arteries allow blood to flow with less resistance and at lower pressure. This is one reason why populations using olive oil as their primary fat tend to have lower average blood pressures than those using other fats. Similar observations have been made about other plant oils. Avocado oil, pressed from the flesh of the fruit, provides monounsaturated fats along with vitamin E and other antioxidants. Studies examining diets rich in monounsaturated fats have found associations with improved cholesterol profiles, higher HDL, the type associated with cholesterol removal from tissues, and lower LDL, the type more prone to oxidation and arterial penetration. Pumpkin seed oil, less familiar in many Western kitchens, has been the subject of smaller but intriguing studies. In one examination of postmenopausal women with elevated blood pressure, those who incorporated pumpkin seed oil into their diets showed reductions in their blood pressure readings over several weeks. Measurements of arterial stiffness, a predictor of cardiovascular risk, also improved. The minerals in pumpkin seed oil, particularly magnesium, may contribute to these effects by supporting the relaxation of smooth muscle surrounding arteries. Sesame oil, a staple in many Asian cuisines, contains lignans, plant compounds with effects on multiple aspects of metabolism. Research in people with mild hypertension has found that using sesame oil in daily cooking is associated with lower blood pressure and improved cholesterol numbers compared to using other oils. The lignans in sesame oil appear to support the endothelium's function, helping arteries maintain their ability to widen when needed. Almond oil, often overlooked as a food oil, provides concentrated vitamin E along with monounsaturated fats. Vitamin E is incorporated into cell membranes throughout the body, where it protects against oxidative damage. For the endothelial cells lining the arteries, this protection matters because damage to these cells is one of the initiating events in the development of arterial thickening. Flaxseed oil stands apart for its high concentration of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fat. Omega-3 fats are known to influence inflammation throughout the body, And inflammation within the artery wall is a key driver of plaque development. By moderating inflammatory responses, the omega-3s in flaxseed oil may help slow the processes that narrow arteries over time. Studies examining flaxseed consumption have found associations with lower blood pressure, improved cholesterol profiles, and reduced platelet reactivity. What emerges from this body of research is not a ranking of oils from best to worst, but an appreciation for the diversity of plant fats and the range of compounds they provide. Each oil offers a slightly different combination of fatty acids and plant chemicals. Using a variety of them over time ensures exposure to this full range of potentially beneficial compounds. Patterns of eating. Patterns of health. The way these oils are used matters as much as which oils are chosen. In traditional eating patterns where plant oils are associated with good health, they are not consumed in isolation. They are part of meals built around vegetables, legumes, whole grains, and often fish or other seafood. The oils dress the foods, carry their flavors, and help the body absorb fat-soluble nutrients from the vegetables and legumes they accompany. This pattern of eating, vegetables and beans dressed with olive oil, whole grains served with a drizzle of nutty oil, fish cooked gently with herbs and a spoonful of avocado oil, creates conditions that support vascular health in multiple ways simultaneously. The fiber from plants helps remove cholesterol from the body through the digestive tract. The antioxidants from vegetables and herbs reduce oxidative stress. The oils themselves provide fats that support endothelial function and moderate inflammation. Contrast this with patterns where oils are used primarily for deep frying or are consumed alongside large amounts of refined carbohydrates and sugars. In such contexts, the potential benefits of the oils may be overwhelmed by the negative effects of other components of the meal. The same oil that supports healthy blood vessels when drizzled over lentils and greens may contribute to different outcomes when used to fry potatoes or dough. This is not a matter of good foods versus bad foods in some moral sense. It is a matter of context and pattern. The body responds to the totality of what is consumed, not to individual ingredients in isolation. A tablespoon of olive oil used to dress a salad of bitter greens, tomatoes, cucumbers, and beans is participating in a very different metabolic event than the same tablespoon used to fry a processed food product. For people seeking to support their circulation as they age, this suggests a focus on overall eating patterns rather than on individual superfoods or magic ingredients. The oils discussed earlier are tools, not solutions. They are most valuable when they replace less beneficial fats in the diet and when they are used in the context of meals built from whole plant foods. This approach aligns with what researchers have observed in populations with low rates of age-related vascular disease. These populations do not typically obsess over individual nutrients or follow rigid rules about what they can and cannot eat. They simply prepare and enjoy meals based on foods that have been part of their culture for generations, vegetables from local gardens, beans and lentils cooked simply, whole grains, fish when available, and oils pressed from plants that grow in their region. The consistency of these patterns over time may be as important as any individual component. The body adapts slowly. Cells turn over, tissues repair, and vessels maintain themselves based on the raw materials consistently available. An occasional salad dressed with olive oil will have little effect on overall vascular health. But a pattern of eating where such meals occur daily, week after week, year after year, provides the steady supply of compounds that support the endothelium, moderate inflammation, and maintain healthy blood flow. Beyond fats, the full picture of circulatory health, while dietary fats play an important role in vascular health, they are far from the only factor. The condition of blood vessels reflects the accumulated effects of countless influences over decades. Understanding these influences provides a fuller picture of what supports healthy circulation and what undermines it. Physical activity ranks among the most powerful influences on arterial health. When muscles contract during movement, they compress the veins running through them, helping push blood back toward the heart. This pumping action supports the return circulation that can otherwise become sluggish, particularly in the legs. But the benefits of movement go beyond this mechanical effect. Regular physical activity, particularly aerobic activity that raises the heart rate and maintains it for periods of time, actually changes the structure and function of arteries. The increased blood flow during exercise creates shear stress on the endothelium, and the endothelium responds by becoming more resilient. It produces more nitric oxide. It becomes better at relaxing in response to increased demand. Over time, arteries become more flexible and more responsive. This is why people who remain physically active as they age tend to have lower blood pressures and better circulation than those who become sedentary. Their vessels have adapted to the demands placed on them. They have maintained the ability to widen and narrow as needed. They have preserved the elasticity that allows blood to flow smoothly even as the heart pumps with each beat. The type of activity matters less than consistency. Walking, swimming, cycling, dancing, any movement that engages large muscle groups and can be sustained for periods of time contributes to vascular conditioning. For people who have been sedentary, starting slowly and building gradually allows the vessels to adapt without being overwhelmed. The goal is not maximum intensity, but regular, sustained movement that becomes part of daily life. Blood pressure deserves attention as a separate factor. Elevated pressure places mechanical stress on artery walls, particularly at points where vessels branch or curve. Over time, this stress damages the endothelium and accelerates the processes that lead to arterial thickening. Maintaining blood pressure within a healthy range, through whatever combination of lifestyle and medical support works for an individual, is one of the most effective ways to preserve vascular health. Blood sugar matters for similar reasons. When glucose levels in the blood remain elevated for extended periods, glucose molecules can attach to proteins throughout the body, forming compounds that damage tissues. In blood vessels, this process stiffens the artery walls and impairs endothelial function. Keeping blood sugar stable through diet, activity, and medical care when needed reduces this source of vascular stress. Sleep, often overlooked in discussions of circulation, is a time of active repair. During deep sleep, blood pressure drops, heart rate slows, and the body directs resources toward maintenance tasks. Growth hormone is released, tissues are repaired, and inflammation is moderated. Consistently insufficient or poor quality sleep deprives the body of this restorative period and is associated with higher rates of vascular problems over time. Stress, particularly the chronic low-grade stress that characterizes modern life, also affects blood vessels. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, designed to mobilize the body for short-term threats, become problematic when they remain elevated for long periods. They raise heart rate and blood pressure, promote inflammation, and contribute to the stiffening of arteries. Finding ways to moderate the stress response through movement, time in nature, meaningful social connection, or simply moments of quiet supports vascular health by reducing this constant pressure on the system. Social connection itself appears in research as a factor associated with better health outcomes across many conditions, including vascular disease. People with strong social ties tend to have lower rates of heart problems than those who are isolated. The reasons are likely multiple. Socially connected people may have more support for healthy behaviors, lower stress levels, and more reasons to maintain their health. But whatever the mechanisms, the observation holds. Relationships matter for circulation. The cumulative effect of small choices, One of the challenges in thinking about vascular health is the timescale involved. The processes that narrow arteries and impair circulation unfold over decades. The choices that support healthy vessels also unfold over decades. There is no single meal, no single day of activity, no single night of sleep that determines the outcome. What matters is the pattern, the accumulated effect of thousands of small decisions repeated over time. This can feel discouraging to someone who has not always made choices that support vascular health. It is natural to wonder whether damage already done can be undone, whether starting now is worthwhile when so much time has passed. The answer, supported by a large body of research, is that the body retains its ability to respond to better care at any age. The endothelium, despite its fragility, is remarkably adaptable. When conditions improve, when blood pressure lowers, when inflammatory signals decrease, when the raw materials for repair become available, endothelial function improves. Arteries become more responsive. Blood pressure may decrease. The tendency for blood to clot inappropriately may lessen. Sensations like heaviness in the legs or cold feet may diminish. These changes do not happen overnight. They unfold over weeks and months of consistent support. But they do happen, and they are measurable. Studies examining the effects of dietary changes on vascular function have found improvements in endothelial responsiveness within weeks of starting a healthier eating pattern. Longer studies have found that these improvements are maintained as long as the pattern continues. For someone in their 50s, 60s, or beyond, this means that choices made today matter. The meal eaten this evening, prepared with vegetables and beans and a good oil drizzled over the top, contributes to the environment in which blood vessels operate. The walk taken after dinner, even a short one, signals the endothelium to maintain its capacity for relaxation. The night of restful sleep allows repair processes to work. Each of these choices, by itself, is small, accumulated over time. They shape the trajectory of vascular health. This is not about perfection. No one makes ideal choices every time. The goal is not to follow a perfect diet, exercise perfectly, sleep perfectly, and manage stress perfectly. The goal is to create a pattern that generally, most of the time, supports rather than undermines vascular function. The body is resilient. It can handle occasional deviations. What matters is the overall direction, the general tendency of choices over time, the sensations that guide attention. Returning to the question posed at the beginning, what does it feel like when blood moves well? There is value in learning to read the body's signals. The sensations that accompany poor circulation are not merely annoyances to be ignored. They are communications, and they contain information that can guide attention and action. Heaviness in the legs, particularly after standing or walking, suggests that blood is pooling in the lower extremities rather than being efficiently returned toward the heart. This can result from weakened vein walls or from valves within the veins that no longer close properly. But it can also result from the heart's pumping action being less efficient or from arteries that are not delivering blood with sufficient force. Paying attention to when heaviness occurs and what relieves it can provide clues about what is happening and what might help. Cold feet, when the rest of the body is warm, suggests that blood is not reaching the extremities in adequate volume. This can happen when arteries are narrowed or when the vessel's ability to widen in response to cold is impaired. If cold feet are accompanied by color changes, pale or bluish toes, the signal is stronger still. Cramping in the calves during walking, relieved by rest, is a classic sign that muscles are not receiving enough oxygen during activity. This pattern, known as intermittent claudication, indicates that the arteries supplying the legs are significantly narrowed. When the muscles work harder, they need more blood, but the narrowed vessels cannot deliver it. Rest reduces the demand. and the pain subsides until the next bout of activity. Swelling in the ankles and feet suggests that the venous system is struggling to return blood to the heart. This can happen when vein walls have weakened, when valves have failed, or when the pumping action of the leg muscles is reduced by inactivity. Swelling that improves with leg elevation and worsens as the day goes on is typical of venous insufficiency. Numbness or tingling in the feet can result from nerve compression, but it can also reflect inadequate blood flow to the nerves themselves. Nerves require a rich blood supply to function, and when that supply is compromised, sensation can be affected. These signals are not emergencies, but they are worth attending to. They provide information about what is happening inside the body, information that can guide conversations with healthcare providers and inform decisions about daily habits. Noticing when symptoms occur, what makes them better, and what makes them worse creates a kind of dialogue with the body, a way of learning what it needs and how it responds. The question of time. There is a tendency, when considering health in later decades, to focus on what has been lost, the elasticity of youth, the resilience of younger vessels, the carefree days when nothing hurt and everything worked. This focus is understandable, but not particularly helpful. What has been lost is gone. What remains is the present moment and the choices available within it. The body at 60 or 70 or 80 is not the body at 20. It has lived decades, accumulated experiences, adapted to countless demands. Its vessels bear the marks of that history, but they also retain the capacity to respond to present conditions. They are not fixed. They are not finished. They are still, in a very real sense, under construction. The oils discussed earlier, used consistently over time, provide raw materials that support the ongoing work of maintenance and repair. Movement, repeated regularly, signals the vessels to maintain their flexibility and responsiveness. Sleep, prioritized and protected, allows repair processes to occur. Stress management, practiced consistently, reduces the wear and tear on vessel walls. None of these practices stops the passage of time. They do not restore the vessels of youth, but they can influence the rate at which changes occur and the extent to which function is preserved. They can mean the difference between legs that carry a person comfortably through daily activities and legs that limit what is possible. They can mean the difference between feet that remain warm without thought and feet that are constantly cold. They can mean the difference between living with the body as a willing partner and living with it as a source of limitation. This is not a trivial difference. The ability to move through the world with ease, to engage in activities that matter, to feel the body as a source of capability rather than constraint. These are not merely matters of comfort. They are matters of how fully a person can participate in life. They shape what is possible in relationships, in work, in leisure, in the simple pleasures of walking through a neighborhood or standing in a kitchen preparing a meal. The choices that support vascular health are choices that support this kind of participation. They are investments in continued capability. They are ways of saying, through action, that the years ahead matter and that the body that will carry a person through those years deserves attention and care. A broader view of longevity. Discussions of longevity often focus on the end point, how many years a person lives. But for most people, the more relevant question is not how long they live, but how well they live through whatever years they have. The quality of those years, the degree to which they can engage in activities that matter to them, depends heavily on the health of their circulation. Poor circulation does not merely cause discomfort. It limits activity. It makes walking difficult. It reduces the oxygen available to muscles and organs. It impairs recovery from exertion. It can lead to wounds that heal slowly or not at all. It can, in its most severe forms, threaten the viability of limbs or the function of vital organs. Good circulation, by contrast, enables activity. It delivers oxygen and nutrients where they are needed. It removes waste products efficiently. It supports healing and repair. It allows the body to respond to demands, to walk farther, work longer, play harder without breaking down. This is the deeper significance of the oils and habits discussed here. They are not about manipulating some abstract measure of health. They are about preserving the capacity for engagement with life. They are about maintaining the internal infrastructure that makes activity possible, enjoyable, and sustainable. For someone who loves to garden, good circulation means being able to spend hours in the garden without legs aching. For someone who enjoys walking with friends, it means keeping pace and covering distance without discomfort. For someone who wants to travel, it means navigating airports, walking through museums, exploring new cities without being limited by what the legs can manage. For someone who simply wants to live independently, it means being able to shop for groceries, climb stairs, tend to the home without assistance. These are not small things. They are the fabric of daily life. They are what makes life feel full rather than constrained. And they are influenced, to a significant degree, by choices made consistently over time. The rhythm of consistency. If there is a single principle that emerges from the research on vascular health, it is the principle of consistency. The body does not respond dramatically to occasional good choices. It responds gradually to patterns sustained over time. A single salad dressed with good oil has negligible effect. Salads dressed with good oil most days, for years, contribute to a pattern of lower inflammation and better endothelial function. A single walk has minimal impact on arterial flexibility. Walks most days, for years, help maintain the vessel's ability to widen and narrow in response to demand. A single night of good sleep supports repair processes that night. Good sleep most nights, for years, allows those repair processes to keep pace with daily wear and tear. This is why the concept of a diet or an exercise program can be misleading. Those terms suggest something temporary, something undertaken for a period and then completed. What supports vascular health is not a diet, but a pattern of eating. Not an exercise program, but a pattern of movement. Not a stress management technique, but a pattern of responding to life's demands with some measure of calm. Patterns are built slowly. They emerge from countless small decisions made day after day. They are shaped by environment, by habit, by the examples of those around us, by the routines we establish and maintain. Changing a pattern requires attention and effort, at least initially. But once established, patterns become self-sustaining. They become simply the way things are done. For someone seeking to support their circulation as they age, the task is not to adopt a set of rules or follow a prescribed plan. The task is to gradually shift patterns in eating, in movement, in rest, in response to stress, toward those associated with better vascular outcomes. This shift does not need to happen all at once. It can happen gradually, one small change at a time, as new habits slowly replace old ones. The information in sensation. As patterns shift, the body provides feedback. The legs that once felt heavy after short walks begin to feel lighter. The feet that were always cold begin to warm. The cramps that came at night become less frequent. These changes are not dramatic. They do not announce themselves with fanfare. They are noticed gradually. In hindsight, the realization that a particular sensation has not occurred for a while, that a familiar discomfort has faded, that something feels different. This feedback matters. It provides confirmation that the direction of change is constructive. It offers motivation to continue. It turns the abstract concept of vascular health into something experienced, something felt in the body's daily functioning. Not everyone will experience dramatic changes. The extent to which symptoms improve depends on many factors: the severity of underlying conditions, the presence of other health issues, the consistency of new patterns. But even modest improvements in comfort and function are valuable. Even small reductions in heaviness, coldness, or cramping make daily life more pleasant and activity more possible. And for those who do not experience noticeable changes in sensation, there is still reason to continue. The absence of sensation is not the absence of effect. The body's internal state can improve without producing noticeable signals. Blood pressure can decrease. Cholesterol profiles can shift. The progression of arterial changes can slow. These changes matter even if they are not felt. The question of medicine. Nothing in this discussion should be interpreted as suggesting that lifestyle choices replace medical care. For many people, medications play an essential role in managing blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, or clotting risk. These medications have been tested in rigorous trials and have demonstrated their ability to reduce the risk of serious events like heart attacks and strokes. Lifestyle choices and medications are not alternatives. They are complements. Medications can control factors that lifestyle alone cannot fully manage. Lifestyle can support the body's function in ways that medications cannot replicate. Used together, they provide more complete support for vascular health than either could alone. For someone taking blood pressure medication, adding regular movement and a diet rich in vegetables and healthy oils may allow the medication to work more effectively. For someone on cholesterol-lowering drugs, improving the quality of dietary fats may enhance the medication's effects. For someone taking blood thinners, being aware of foods that also influence clotting, including some of the oils discussed, allows for informed conversations with healthcare providers about how to balance all factors. The key is communication. Any significant change in diet, particularly changes that involve increasing intake of foods that affect clotting or blood pressure, should be discussed with a healthcare provider. What is safe and beneficial for one person may be different for another, depending on their specific health status and medications. The larger context, circulation does not exist in isolation. It is part of a larger system that includes the heart that pumps, the lungs that oxygenate, the muscles that demand, the nerves that coordinate. Supporting circulation means supporting this entire system. The same choices that benefit blood vessels, regular movement, whole foods, adequate sleep, stress management, benefit every other part of the body as well. This is why approaches that focus narrowly on a single factor, just cholesterol, just blood pressure, just one oil or supplement, often disappoint. The body is not a collection of independent parts. It is an integrated whole. Improving one aspect without attending to others yields limited results. Supporting the whole system, by contrast, creates conditions where each part can function better. The oils discussed here are tools for supporting one aspect of this system. They provide specific compounds that influence endothelial function, inflammation, and platelet behavior. But they work best when embedded in a larger pattern of living that supports health across all systems. Movement, rest, connection, purpose, these are not separate from vascular health. They are essential to it. For someone in the decades after 50, this integrated view offers both challenge and opportunity. The challenge is that no single magic solution exists. No pill, no oil, no exercise, no diet alone will ensure healthy circulation. The opportunity is that many small choices, made consistently, add up to something substantial. Each positive choice supports the others. Movement makes healthy eating more appealing. Healthy eating provides energy for movement. Good sleep supports recovery from both. Stress management makes all of it easier to sustain. A final observation. There is a tendency in modern culture to approach health as a problem to be solved, a set of risks to be managed, a series of threats to be avoided. This approach has its uses, but it misses something essential. The body is not primarily a problem. It is the means through which life is experienced. It is the vehicle for everything that matters: relationships, work, creativity, pleasure, service. Caring for it is not about avoiding negative outcomes. It is about preserving the capacity for positive engagement. The circulation that carries blood through the body is not just a medical concern. It is the delivery system for life itself. Every thought, every movement, every sensation depends on its proper function. Every organ, every tissue, every cell relies on the steady supply of oxygen and nutrients that blood provides. Every moment of vitality is made possible by vessels that remain open, flexible, and responsive. The choices that support this system are not sacrifices made in the name of health. They are investments in continued capability. They are ways of saying, through daily action, that the years ahead matter, that the ability to walk, to work, to play, to love, to contribute is worth preserving. They are not guarantees. No choice guarantees anything, but they tilt the odds. They create conditions in which the body is more likely to function well, for longer, with greater comfort and capability. For someone considering where to start, the answer is simple: anywhere. A walk after dinner, a salad dressed with good oil, an earlier bedtime, a few minutes of quiet. Any of these, repeated consistently, begins to shift the pattern. Any of them, sustained over time, contributes to the accumulated effect. The body responds to what is done consistently, not to what is done occasionally. Starting somewhere, anywhere, and continuing matters more than starting perfectly. The circulation within is quiet. It does not demand attention, but it responds to attention when given. It adapts to support. It maintains what is consistently supported. This is the nature of living systems: to meet conditions with adaptation, to use what is provided, to preserve function as long as possible. The body is such a system. It has been maintaining itself for decades. It will continue to do so, with whatever support it receives. The question is what support will be offered, starting today and continuing through the years ahead. The circulation within is quiet. It does not demand attention, but it responds to attention when given. The single most important takeaway from everything explored here is this: the body's vast network of vessels is not merely aging on a fixed timetable. It is responding, every day, to the conditions you provide: the movement, the rest, the foods, the fats, the moments of calm. These choices do not need to be perfect. They only need to be consistent, repeated gently over time, until they become simply the way you live. If something in this discussion has prompted reflection, if it has raised a question about your own sensations or habits, consider sharing that thought in the comments. The Longevity Library exists because of conversations like these, exchanges of observation and experience among people who understand that how we age is not entirely beyond our influence. If this is the kind of wisdom you value, there are other recordings here waiting for you. Subscribe if you would like to receive them as they appear. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.